Hey folks, Dave here on a rare Tuesday afternoon broadcast. And what I want to do is something real quick. A couple of people were asking about setting up ABPA Football. And so that's what I'm going to do here today is I just want to show you how I set it up. It doesn't mean that's how you're going to set it up or somebody else, but I'm going to show you how I do it that makes the most sense for me. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to set up the 1976 Oakland Raiders. Okay, that's the team we're going to set up here. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that in 1 second. The first thing I do when I'm playing a game, and how the APA cards work, and I think this is the only football game right now that I play with full cards. Everything else is a team sheet. So this is the individual player cards, is what I meant to say. And all the players are rated here. So what you can do is you can take the highest rated players and create your own setup on the table and play the game that way. What I like to do, as you know, is I like to go back and try to play as close to the actual rosters as I can get. It doesn't mean it's going to be exact because you never know how many people are in the game, but I try to get as close as I can. So we're going to pick a game here, and I'm going to add this to the scene here, and we're going to maximize this. So this is the game between the Bengals and the Raiders. This is December 6, 1976 in Oakland. Excuse me. And I'm going to show you how I set up the Raiders. And I'm not going to do the Bengals, but I'll show you how to set up one team, and you do exactly the same for the other team. So I'm going to scroll down here, and the first thing I like to look at is my starters. All right, so you can see here on the screen, I have my Raiders starters and my Bengals starters. This is just how I play it to keep it nice and simple and kind of a basic mode, is I find my 11 defensive starters, and that's my defense for the game. It's just easier for me. I'm not swapping in, defensive backs and nickel defense. If you want to, you can. Some people do. And every single play, the defensive rating will change. And theoretically, it's more accurate that way. For me to play and just have fun and not turn this into a 4 or 5 hour game, I keep the defense nice and simple. I take my defensive starters, I get my ratings for that, and my defense is done. And I'll show you how to do that in 1 second. For offense, I like to start with my starting 11. And then I scroll up here and I try to see if anybody else got a touch or a carry or something like that. So if I'm looking in the game here, obviously Stable is my quarterback. Now, Mike Ray did come in at the end, it looks like, and he threw a couple of passes. So maybe Stable got shaken up, but they took him out late. But let's start with the running back. So obviously we're going to have Van Egan and Davis in, but Garrett got a couple of carries, as did Banaszak, and even Cliff Branch carried it once. So I need to make sure I have these 4 runners in the game. And now for receiving, obviously my runners made some catches out of the backfield, but I want to have Branch, Casper, and Bolitnikoff. So I definitely want to have those guys in the game. Sometimes I get a little crazy because I like to have 2 halfbacks, 2 fullbacks, and at least 3 wide receivers, if not 4, and then 2 tight ends, because I think that just that rounds out your offensive lineup that goes in and out of the game. Obviously, I don't have that here. If I look at my starters and I combine this, I'm not going to have that, so I'll add those later. Sometimes what I do is I will click on the team I'm looking for, right, and then I'll go to the players and see how many games they played. So if I'm looking here and I could say, oh, geez, I need I need a tight end. Well, this guy only played 1 game. So I don't know if I'd want to put him in. And you can find out what game that is, too. If you click on him and come over here to his game logs for 1976, he looks like he played, let me see. He started this one here, looks like. So, yeah, so he played against Tampa Bay, and he got carries against so he played in a few games. It said 1 game, but I mean he played in a few. So you can really kind of dial in your roster if you want to get crazy. Alrighty, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. Oh, actually, I want to go games played actually. So these are the guys I'm looking at here. The guys that played 11 to 14 games. The guys that played 7, maybe. Again, you can click on them to see what games they actually played in. So if you want to get crazy and really dial it in, you can get pretty close to who played in the game by clicking on this team here in Pro Football Reference. But for the rest of this here, again, I start with my starting defense, and I'll show you that. I starting offense. I factor in anybody else that got a touch in the game, and then I kind of sprinkle in guys the best I can to round it out. Also, what you want to look for is your kicks and your punch. You definitely want to find your kickers, your punter, and your kickoff man, and then you want to see who returned it, because a lot of times the guys will be rated like TA, that's your main punter. TB is your backup punt returner. I'm TA is your punt returner. Let me get that right. But in this game here, for punt returns, let's just say that Rick Jennings was my top punter returner. I don't know if he is or not, but let's say he was. Well, in this game, Neil Colsey returned all 3 punts. So for this game, Neil Colsey is going to be my primary punt returner. That's what I like to do. And again, and so Jennings would be my primary kick returner because he returned the most kicks. So sometimes that's what I like to do. I like to look at the game, see how the player was used, and not necessarily go with what's on the card. So that's how I start looking at who's going to be in the game. Okay, so let me get this off here, and we'll come back to my shining face, and let's go overhead. So here's how I start things, all right? And I'm going to zoom in just a little smidge here as we got a few people coming by, Glenn and Barbara and Bernie. I was kind of showing, somebody was asking, a few people asking about ABPA Football and how I set it up. So I want to kind of go over that. Now, usually they're going to be in order. Obviously, I played this team already, so they're not in order alphabetically. What I like to do is I separate them by offense and defense. All righty? So I got offense, defense, offense, 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 defense, offense. And if I see anybody that sticks out to me as a specialty guy, like Neil Colsey here, okay, that's my specialty guy. He says all kinds of things, so he goes off to the side here. And this is how I start sorting it out. Ray Guy is my punter, quarterback, and sometimes they're both, and then they just throw them off to the side. Art Shell, we all know who Art Shell is. Offense, Otis Sistrunk, Stabler, quarterback. Let me come down a little bit here. Okay. Freddie Steinford, looks like he's going to be a kicker of some kind. Center, Jack Tatum. We don't like to mention him here in New England. And okay, and then Errol Mann's another. So I have it separated into offense, defense, and kind of specialty players. Okay, that's kind of how I have this set up right now. So let's start with the defense. Okay, as ABPA Chatter comes by, NDB, and the 76 Raiders won his mini Super Bowl league. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Okay, so here's my defense, right? So I got them all, and we can shuffle them up. I'm kidding. We're not going to shuffle them up. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back to my list here, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to look for the Raider defense, okay? And I'm going to just if they're in the game, they're in the game. It's in the game, all right? So I'm going to go to my Raider defense, and is Villapiano in the game? Yes, he is. Is Thomas in the game? Skip Thomas? Yes, he is. Jack Tatum? Yes, he is. Otis Sistrunk? Yes, he is. Dave Rowe? Yes. Do I have Rice? Floyd Rice? No. Is this guy Philia? No. Phillips? I don't think Phillips is in the game. Do we have a Herb McMath? I'm not seeing him. Matuzak? Yes. Monty Johnson? Yes. Ted Hendricks? Yes. Willie Hall? Yes. Willie Brown? Yes. Bonas? No. Barnes? No. Atkinson? Yes. Okay. So this should be my defense. Now, as you know, ABPA, sometimes they don't have everybody, or somebody might be on a different team. So if that's the case, if for some reason someone that's on the list on the computer, but he's not here, then you either got to go and find another team, see if he's in another team, or you just kind of substitute him because he doesn't have a card. But again, that's just the nature of the beast for ABPA. Okay, so now let's get them together. Let's make sure I have 11. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, good. I purposely did a late season game, so I had everybody here on that was carded. All right, so that's my defense right now. What I like to do is I like to put these in order. So if anything happens, you get a fumble, you get a interception, anything like that, I have them in order. I highly recommend printing these out of the book. This is right out of the ABPA book right here. It just shows you where you're going to be lining up your guys right here. And also this here from the OGuard site, ogard62.net, I think it is. This is fantastic. It tells you your kick coverage, your kickoff returns, your field goals, your punt, and it tells you what the numbers are. So if you have any kind of crazy play on a special teams, you have an idea what you're looking at here. So this is fantastic, and all I did is print this on the page as well, right out of the ABPA book. I think I just created that in Excel and printed it on here. So this is kind of my main cheat sheet to see what's going on. So we're going to put this here. Now these guys on the defense are not in the game. Again, I keep them handy just in case we need to bring in somebody for an injury or something like that. So let me zoom in a little bit here. And now we're going to figure out who's playing what. Okay, so we need our defensive left end, and that's going to be Matuzak. So where is Matuzak, my defensive left end? Okay, so he's number 1. He's the defensive left end. Now, it's either going to be the left tackle or the nose tackle, depending if they're playing 3-4 or 4-3. So they're going to be playing 3-4. So they have 3 linemen and 4 linebackers. So we're going to go to the nose tackle next, and that's going to be Rowe. All right, so there's Rowe. So we have Matuzak, and then we have Rowe. And now we need the middle linebacker, the left. Let's see, what do we got here? So we get 3, so we need 4. So we don't have a middle. We have a left outside and a left inside. So we have right outside, left outside. So that's going to be left inside. So the left inside linebacker is going to be Willie Hall. And I'm getting this right off of the page we are at with the starting lineup. So it's giving them, and I'm just putting them in order. So the middle, there's a left inside linebacker here. I should say inside, and because it's right inside. So Willie Hall. Now the right inside is Monty Johnson. Okay. So now we go back to the end. So for some reason with a 3-4, it's end, nose tackle, then the inside linebackers, and now the right end. That's just kind of how ABPA does it, but it's all listed here. And that's going to be Otis Sistrunk. So where is Otis? Otis is going to go here. Okay, so that's my left end, my nose tackle, left inside, right inside, and the right end. And now I need the outside linebackers, starting with the left. So it's going to be left outside is Villapiano, and then the right outside is going to be Ted Hendricks. So Villapiano and Hendricks. And then my cornerbacks, and now it gets real easy. So I have Skip Thomas, and these are all in order. Left cornerback, right cornerback, strong safety, and free safety. They're all in order as you see them on the website. So that's pretty easy. Skip Thomas, Willie Brown, Atkinson, and Tatum. So this is my defensive lineup here. The only confusing part is if they have the nose tackle, sometimes you got to figure it out. But it's all listed here. It's all pretty simple. So now that I have this in order, and I keep these in order on my off to the side. Okay, so the defense is done. That's the defense. Again, I probably made it look a lot harder than it was. So again, I separate my cards, and then I look at my defense, and I get my guys, and then I put them in order. So now what will happen here is if there's a fumble and it says D1 recovers, it's my defensive left end. D1's right on the top, Matuzak. If it's 10, the strong safety, well, that's 11. That's 10, George Atkinson. So this is in order 1 to 11 for defense. The only time that this messes up is if one of these guys, sometimes they have a safety or cornerback return punts, then you're going to have to slide him out and just remember, make a note that he is. So let's just say that Willie Brown returned some kicks, and I think he actually might have. So this is going to be my right cornerback. So he comes out of the pile, goes into the kick returners, and so now you're going to remember that if I'm looking for my right cornerback, he's actually off in the different pile. So that's what I do here. Now what you do is you count the numbers to get your defensive number. So he's playing end. So he's a 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 19, 23, 26, 29, 33, 37. So if I added this up right, my defense is 37 for the 76 Oakland Raiders. And that's my defense I go with for the whole game. I don't make any changes in and out. You can, just kind of how I do it. So I'm just kind of showing you how I set up. Okay, so my defense is done. And I will take the defense and I will slide that mayor off to the side. And unless I need to steal anybody from there, the defense is done. Okay, now I'm going to do the same with the offense. Alrighty. And so let's go over here. So let's call up my offense here. And so I'm looking for, obviously, Stabler as my quarterback. Vela, yes, he's in the game. Van Egan is in the game. Upshaw, he's going to be in the game. Again, this is my my front line here. Sylvester is not in the game. Ciani is not. Art Shell, yes. Medlin, no. Lawrence, no. And these are just the starters, by the way. This is not anything else here. This is just my starters I'm looking at, and I will add to this as needed. I don't see a Garrett. Clarence Davis, yeah. Dave Dalby is the center. Casper, yes. Bueller, yes. Sorry. Branch, Morris Bradshaw, no. Freddie Bolitnikoff, yeah. We just saw him at the Hall of Fame. And Pete Banaszak, no, and more. Okay, so we should have five, right? And 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So that's my 11 offensive starters. That's my starters. Okay, so let's put them in order now. So going back to what we have here. Okay, again, this is how Dave does it. All righty. So we're gonna look for. I like to put these guys here in order. I'm not so worried about the order of the offense. Okay, it doesn't. Sometimes it calls for that. Sometimes it doesn't. But I need to put these in order. So we need to start left tackle, left guard, center. So the left tackle is Art Shell. The left guard is Gene Upshaw. The center is Dalby. And then we have Bueller and Veller. Okay, so that's my starting 5 up front. Okay, I keep them together and I keep them off to the side because we don't really need to use these all that often. Once in a while to see if they return a fumble or something, but these kind of going to go off to the side. And then again, I don't really worry about putting this in order. Okay, in fact, it's not often that it calls for someone here unless they like recover a fumble or something like that. But the order of the defenses, I find, is more important than the order of the offense as far as getting the numbers here, D1 to 11, 01 to 11, because you're going to know who your guys are. So if it says that, 08 falls on the ball, well, 08's your quarterback, so you don't need to put them in any kind of order. And if it's 011, well, it's your fullback, so you know who your fullback is. So I don't really worry about the offensive order of things. All right, so Stabler will go on top of my offensive line here. And then I have my my guys here. So these are my 11 starters. Okay, these are my 11 starters in the game. I'm going to add up all the numbers like I did on defense, and that's going to give me a number. Just for kicks, let's do that. So we have 5, 10, 14, 17, 20, 23, 27, 30, 35, 40, 44. That's nuts. 44 is pretty good. So again, I'm just looking at the numbers here next to their rating. That's where I'm looking. All the numbers here, even over here, all the numbers next to their offense in their position. If they play a different position, sometimes they have a different rating. A lot of times they don't, but sometimes they do. So now my offense, what did I say? I had 44. So what I like to do, how I play it, okay, is, hang on a sec over here. Hopefully I can still hear me. For some reason that was muted. If you can still hear me, let me know in the chat. What I do is when I play this game is I use the defensive cards. That's what I like to use. So we had an offense of 44, which is high for the Raiders, very high. Let's just say they were playing a defense that was 34, that whatever. So we're playing Cincinnati. Cincinnati, remember when we counted the defense, right? We counted over here. What did we say? This was like 37. I forget what it was over here. Okay. And so we had a 44 for the offense and a 34 for Cincinnati's defense. So Cincinnati would actually be a minus 10. Or let's see, how would they be now? So so they'd be at a minus 10. All right. Defensive playing calls minus 10. So they would be, so I would use that card right there. So with a 44 offense and a 34 defense, the defense is minus 10. So that's how I set up my defensive card. Now, so we had the defense, just say it was 37 defense right here for Oakland. Just say they were playing a 32 offense, and then they would be +5. And that's kind of how I set up my defensive cards. So again, add up the offense, add up the defense, and get your defensive cards. And that's what it is. And again, it goes from +25, which is a dominating defense, to a -25, which is a very bad defense. And you can see the difference here. So if your defense is -25 compared to the offense rating, see all the A's. That's A is good for the offense. So that means you're going to get a lot of offense here off of this card. Whereas if the defense was dominant with a 25, there's a lot of C's. C's are better for the defense. So on defense, you want to be a positive number is what it is. So the higher the number, the better for both offense and defense. Okay, so I like to use these cards here. I start this. This is kind of my guide. You see me play the game, but I love these cards here so I can roll the dice, figure out what the call is going to be on a run or a pass. I will adjust that depending on the receiver, obviously, and for the situation too, because you're not going to play ground on 3rd and 10. You're going to be playing deep. That's just kind of common sense, and so I kind of do it that way. So where else are we going to go here? So we have our defense, right? That's off to the side in order, and we have our offense. So I will take my front 5, and I'll just put that off to the side. And I don't, like I said, I can just put that way off to the side if I want. So now I want my main guys here. So I got Stabler here. I take my receivers, then my tight end, and then my running backs. All right, let me zoom out so you can see what's going on here. So this is what I do. Okay. And I do this for both teams. So what I did for the Raiders, you do for the other team too. So now you have your starting lineup. Again, what I like to do is I like to have more guys in here than just the starters. So I'm going to go back to the guys that touched the ball in the game that didn't start. So no more. Banaszak played. So he's going to go in, and I slide him in the back here to tell me he's not a starter, but he's going to get some carries, okay? Bankston, I don't have anything from, but he's a tight end, so I might use him. Morris Bradshaw, nope, but he's a receiver. Carl Garrett, yeah, Carl Garrett's in the game too. So this is probably going to be my 4 backs. So I have a halfback, a fullback, and these guys can play either way. So I'm going to probably go Davis and Van Eegen for most of the game, but occasionally I need to go to Banaszak and Garrett, okay? Because Garrett got 9 carries and Banaszak got 11. So actually, we'll probably play them more than we think. So Van Eegen with the most carries, then Davis, and then Banaszak and Garrett. So all 4 of these. So if I wanted to, I could put them in order of use of that game. So if I'm looking at my chart, we have 19 carries, 14 carries, 11 carries, 9 carries. So it gives me an idea in order where I want to go. And you will roll off the running back card on runs, okay? On passes, you only roll off the quarterback card. The only thing you need from the receivers is your rating right here, A. The A-5, A-6, that's kind of an advanced rule if you really want to dial in how many catches that they got, okay, or how many times they're thrown to. There's a chart you can set up that number will give you to give you, and then you got to set up a little chart off to the side, so you roll dice to see who's going to catch the ball. I haven't used it yet. It does look kind of neat. You just take all your receivers, you give them all a number, and then you slot them in. It's almost like a finder roll is what it would be. In other games, you've had a finder roll. All right, so is anybody else in this game? So we have Branch, Casper, and Bolitnikov. And so nobody else was credited with anything in this game that I can see. So, but I like to have at least 2 tight ends. So let me see who my tight ends would be. And so it's going to be either Warren Bankston or Ted Kwolek. And they're both rated 2, so it really wouldn't matter. If I want to get crazy, I can come over here and look at the Oakland team. And again, see how many games these guys played. So if I'm looking over here at Kwolek, he played 7 games. And Bankston played 14 games. So I'm going to have him be my second tight end. Just by the sheer number of it. He played 14 games. So he played all the games. So he played. He just didn't get any catches that game. But he's in there. And I might throw to him once or twice. I do want another receiver because I only have 2 receivers. So as far as my receivers, so it's Siani. Do I have a Siani in here? Do I have a Siani? Yeah, so Mike Siani, he also played all 14 games, as did Morris Bradshaw. So if I really wanted to, I could do something like this. So I could have my top 2 receivers and then other receivers too if I wanted to, like, say I got a 3 receiver set or something like that. So this is how my offense is. And this is just how Dave does it. And I set this up for each team. So that way there, I'm all set to go from here. So now I have my quarterback and my running backs. Now I'm going to be rolling off the cards here, whereas over here I can stack them because I'm only looking at this receiver number letter here. So Siani's a C, Bradshaw's a C, Bolitnikov and Branch are A's. That's kind of how I do that. Now the last thing to do is we need to check our special teams. So let's take a look at our kickers. So for Oakland, we have Ray Guy as our punter. Okay, Mike Ray is not playing. David Hum is not playing. And so let me come back to my my screen here. Make sure you can see this here. Yep, so let's slide this down. So Ray Guy is my punter. Errol Mann is my kicker, and he is my kick-off person here. So he'll be place kicking. He'll be punting. And for my returns, we have Colsey, Jennings, and Hubert Ginn. So Freddie Steinford is out, so I don't have Freddie Steinford in here anywhere right now. So I thought, oh, good. So this works out here. So Rick Jennings and Hubert Ginn. So as this works out, I don't have to steal anybody from my defense. Because a lot of times, like I said, the cornerbacks will be returning kicks. So this is what I have. I got my punter, my kicker, my punt returner, primary punt returner, and then I have my primary kick returner and my backup kick returner, or the secondary. So what I would do in this game, and what I like to do is I'll take a little notepad like this, and I'll put in kick returner, Colsey, punt returner, Jennings, punt returner 2 is Ginn. So if it calls for and I just take this and I stick it off to the side just so I can see it. And that's what I do as far as the setup here. And I'll do that for each team. And I have my little stands. So these things will be sitting in stands over here so I can see them, But, yeah, so that's why it takes me a bit to set up the ABPA football game. That being said, it's still my favorite game. I just like rolling the dice on the cards and having individual cards. I like looking over here to see who I'm going to pick to throw to. So that is that. So if so now a couple of people ask me about how I do it. That's how I do it. I start by sorting offense and defense. Then I go to the game I'm going to play, and I find my 11 defense, and I put them in order according to this sheet right here, because the defense is much more important. And this is in the book, by the way. This is in the book. So I put them in order so I know if something happens on a turnover, this is who I go to. For offense, I find my starting 11. so I can get my offensive rating number for the game. And then I sprinkle in a couple of extra receivers, a tight end, a couple of backs, and then I find my kickers and my kick returners. And that's what I do. And that way there, again, this is a little overkill. I mean, you could always just take the best 5 linemen and the best of everything. You just take the best of the best and put on your lineup here. I like to go with what played in the game. And you know me, that's what I like to do. So anyway, so that is how I set up ABPA Football. And any questions, let me know. But that's how I do it. And you really, like I say, the defense, I just keep this off to the side in order. And if you need to do something, just go in and find the guy and just see, what he does. What's neat is the advanced game here. They have the quarterback sack. You see how that's a 4. I don't know if you can see that with that light in the way, but that's a 4. So you can even rate the defensive guys to see, who's going to get the sack if you want to do that too. I don't really go crazy with that. Again, I usually don't keep the stats, but if you keep stats, you could do all that there. But that's it. There's my punter, my kicker, my what did I say? That was my kick returner, punt returner 1, punt returner 2, and here's my offense. And that's how I set it up. And I just have both teams here on the table. And yeah, that's it. Again, and I was asking about passes on the pass. So here's an example of a pass. Okay, so let's just say we were playing. Cincinnati was a -5. Let's say. Okay, so I roll the dice here and just give you an example on how I play it. Okay, so Cincinnati's a -5. So this will be a pass play. Okay. So I roll the dice and I roll a 31, let's say. Okay, so it says CS. So they're playing a standard defense, and it's going to be a C, which is good for the defense. If I'm throwing a branch is an A, so he's going to bring that C up to a B. So what happens is he'll raise it 1. If I rolled a 53 and it was a BS, that B improves to A. So anytime the receiver's passing rating is greater than the defense that you're using, it can raise 1. The only time it goes down is, let's just say I was throwing to C Annie over here, who's a C, okay? So if I rolled AG, let's say, so I'm playing ground, but it's going to be A, that C would drop the A to a B because it's 2 less. If I had a B defense, it'll just stay B. It doesn't go down anymore. So the rule of thumb is that the receiver can raise a grade by 1 if he's greater than, but the only way it drops is if it's 2. So an A would come down to a B, but a B and a C would say a C. And that's all in the rule book too. So on a pass, then you would roll off the Stabler card. And so you get your result off the P column. You go to the chart, and then am I looking at A, B, or C? And are they playing pass, standard, or ground? And if you played ABPA football, that's kind of how it goes. So that's what I like about using these cards here. It gives me some different roles. And what this does for me is it simulates making the right call or the bad call. So if you roll, a 66 or something like that, BG, well, it's an okay. B's okay, but if you guess ground, yeah, if they're running, you guess ground, that's going to be good for you. A bad roll might be something like BD. Now you're playing deep on a run, so you made the wrong call. And I like the variation in this. And again, it really kind of, depending on what number is here, you're going to make more right calls than wrong calls the closer you get to positive 25. As you can see here, it's all C, which is good for the defense. So I like to use these cards here. It helps me play solo is what it is, Doing as played, what website do I use? I was using this site right here. Okay, and this is the football, profootballreference.com. And this is the game I was setting up between Oakland and Cincinnati. And so you scroll down and you get your starting lineups. So I have my defense, and I just keep the defense as is. That's my defense for the game. It just makes it nice and simple. And when I set up my offense, I take my starting offense, as you see, and then I just sprinkle in a couple of guys here. So if so I and that's just on me. So I have my quarterback. These are my two starters. These are my guys that come in because they never really just have two backs. And I see how many carries they got during the game, you know. And so that's kind of how I do it here. So hopefully that helps. I know I've done another video on this. I might have done a better video, but I know a couple people were asking, how do you set up this the ABPA Football? So that's what I do. Again, it's me. I really get into it. I want to have the guys on the field that were in the field, and I want to use them in that game as they were used. So again, most carries, second most, third most, fourth most carries. You know, starters throwing to these guys most of the time. These guys might get one or two. Casper's my main tight end. Bankston, maybe I throw in one or two during the game. Things like that. So, and then again, at the top, I like to have my special teams so I can just get right at them. So if I set it up like this, I don't have to dig for anybody. And again, I have my stands that I set up, and sometimes I have rows of them so I can get at them. But so that is that. So anyway, all righty, I'm going to grab some lunch. I do have to work tonight, but that is how I set up my teams in ABPA Football. So hopefully if that helped. If that helped, great. If not, well, hopefully it helped somebody. But anyway, I'm Dave. We'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.